All right, at 6 o'clock, council ready? We'll call this meeting to order then. If we would all please rise for the invocation. Mr. Harrell of the Gathering of Robinson Lutheran Church, and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you again for the opportunity. Let us pray. God our Father, we come before you today thanking you for our life, our health, and all of our material blessings which all come from you. We also thank you for establishing our government and laws to protect citizens and to allow them to enjoy the freedoms we have so graciously been given. Help us all to live in peace and prosperity with the freedom to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. We ask that during these election times, we ask that peace and civility would reign through our country and that wise, discerning leaders would be elected to represent and govern. And we thank you for the citizens of this community and those who are in attendance today, people who work each day to make a living, supporting their families, or those who are now retired enjoying the fruits of their labor. We also thank you for the mayor, the council members, the staff, the police and fire departments, and all who give their time to serve this community. As a people's servants, give them discernment to know the best course of action and the courage to do what is right, good, and true for the people living here. Please give these leaders wisdom in governing amid any conflicting interests or issues. Give them a clear sense of the true needs of the people and this community. Help them to work together in harmony and unity for the good of all, even when disagreements occur. And please protect them and their families as they carry out the duties of their public servants, and give them joy in their tasks. We pray for the agenda set before them today. Please give them clarity on what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work here and around Robinson. We commend this time to you. And thank you for hearing and answering our prayer. It is in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Rogers.
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Eckerling.
Here.
Stiver.
Here.
McLean. Here. Burke. Master George.
Here. Item 5 is citizens' comments. We'll start right back with Mr. Harrell.
Thank you. Just wanted to make you aware that we're having a community event on December 10th here at Peploe Park. We are having another gathering and a movie for families to come. We're going to have hot chocolate and all sorts of good time for everybody to come and just enjoy this holiday season together as families here in Robinson. So we just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. Again, December 10th will be about 6 o'clock and then probably start the showing at 6:30. So it's going to be The Star, which is an animated film, and we're looking forward to doing that. This is our third one for this year, and we're planning on doing more and more of them. The citizens have seemed to really respond well. We had 100 at our last event, and it's just a really good, positive time for families. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Mrs. Vaughn for chamber announcements.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you tonight. I do want to bring you some announcements from the chamber and some information. Our next event is November the 5th, this Saturday. We will be participating in a ribbon cutting at Motec Service and Performance in the old Lynch Automotive building or whatever area. That ribbon cutting is going to be at 11 o'clock. They're going to have an event from 10 to 2 that day, I believe, celebrating their opening. And the ribbon cutting will be at 11, and the chamber will be in charge of that. And would love to have any of you come out and join with us in that event. On November the 10th, we will be participating in, and you're all invited to, a joint networking event. It's a joint networking breakfast with the Hewitt and the McGregor Chambers, and it's going to be at the Donut Hole in Hewitt. It's from 9:15 to 10:30. They do ask that you RSVP, so you can go through the Hewitt website to do that, Hewitt Chamber. because they need to have a head count and need to know how many people are gonna be there, but you can RSVP up to the day before. Excuse me. Our next board meeting is gonna be Tuesday, November the 15th at 5:30. All of our board meetings are open to the public. We don't try to hide anything, so anybody that wants to come can come. And this particular board meeting, we're gonna be meeting at St. Paul Missionary Baptist Church in their fellowship hall. I don't know how many of you have heard, but they're trying to get their, well, historical marker for their church. And so we're going to meet there so we can take a look at their church and get a better idea of how things look. And we've actually done a couple of emails out to people to let them know that they can contribute to that. Anybody that wants to can go to Fidelity Bank of Texas, and they have an account there that can be contributed to, or you can contribute through the chamber to that. We have a donation account that we're putting that money in, and then we'll transfer it over to them. If they get more than they need for the historical marker, they'll use that to begin to do renovations on the church, which are much needed. December 1st is our Christmas parade, and that will begin at 6 p.m. We do have all of our sponsors in line. Thank you, Annie, and all of you that were able to help with that. And we look forward to that being a good time. It is themed a cowboy country Christmas. So that should be a good time. We also will be having a semi-annual membership meeting on February the 9th. I know that's a little bit out there, but just want to let you know so you can get that on your calendar. It's open to the public as well. You can all come and find out more about the chamber and network with other people that maybe you don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vaughn. Jacob Swim.
Good evening, council members. Thanks.
Name and address for us for the record.
Jacob Swim, 701 Berwick Court. So I wanted to talk about quickly the road closure on Old Robinson Road near Carnes Drive. That closure, the city's done a great job, I believe, in providing a website with the plans and some information. However, there's no completion date of that, and I was hoping the city can provide the other phases. I believe phase 1 is posted, but I was hoping that we can get some more information as to when that's completed. The reason I ask is because a lot of traffic is diverted to other residential roads where high speeds occur and near misses have happened from my observation and having to travel around. So that's just a small request. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had another comment about the roundabout, but I know that's not within the city of Robinson. So there's no lights at the roundabout at Valley Mills and Robinson Drive at that roundabout. I don't know why the lights are off, but that's also a safety concern. So, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else that could speak during citizens' comments? Item 6 is a presentation to Councilman Burks for his service to the city, but he is absent tonight. So we will move over this item and we'll present this to him here in the next couple of weeks. I can get in touch with him. Items 7 through 9 are consent agenda items. Council have any questions or anything else to discuss?
No, but I'll
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items 7 through 9.
I'll second that motion.
All right, motion is to approve consent agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10 is consider possible action on the removal of Glenn Loth from the Planning and Zoning Commission. Craig, you have this, you can bring everyone up to speed.
Yeah, I'll take care of it. So, council appointed Mr. Loth as a alternate. I don't even remember what the date of that was. Sometime in the past. Remember that him?
November 21.
So, a year ago. And Mr. Loth has not attended any of the meetings. My understanding, he never completed the required training. It should have been done within 30 days of appointment. Mr. Dingman did speak to me and said, asked if the council consider maybe replacing him with somebody who will actually attend the meetings. So, I think there's been several attempts to reach out to him, but we've not ever received a response from him.
Questions? I will make a motion to remove Glenn Loth from the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'll second.
Is it Chairman Simon?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the motion is to remove Glenn Loth from the Planning and Zoning Commission. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 11 is conduct board and commission pre-appointment interviews and consider possible action on appointments to fill vacancies for a 2-year term. Okay, we have 3 applications in tonight, council. We have a Bill Morgan, Wesley Gilbreth, and Charlie Birch. Excuse me, there should be a 4th. Or York, Chris York.
I'll take this one.
Okay, I have it. It was just item back here. 4 applications, including Chris York. Okay, Misty, can you let us know what vacancies do we have and on main positions now and alternates?
So with the removal of Mr. Locke, we have the alternate, and then we have Gary Praisel, who is moving, so there's the 2 on planning and zoning. And there are the vacancy that you're going to interview for tonight for zoning board of adjustment, and then there still are 4 alternates.
And 4 alternates are needing for ZBA?
And then building and standards, you are interviewing someone for tonight to fill a vacancy for a member, which will leave 2 member vacancies as well as 4 alternates.
Okay, Mr. York is looking for the ZBA,
And he's-
Building Standards Commission.
Yes.
How many vacancies do we have on Building Standards?
If he's appointed tonight, that'll take up one of the member, you'll have 2 more vacancies for members, and then there'll be 4 vacancies for alternates, still 6.
Okay.
6.
Okay, council, so we have 2 applications for planning and zoning. That's Bill Morgan and Wesley Gilbreth.
We have 2 open.
Correct. And then we have one for Charlie Birch on ZBA,
Correct.
which has an opening, and we have one for Chris York for Building Standards, which has an opening. So, let's start with planning and zoning. Mr. Morgan? Mr. Morgan, obviously you've seen these questions before, and I'm just gonna turn it over to you and let you talk a little bit about your past with the city of Robinson.
I spent, well, I first moved to Robinson when I was 3 years old. I moved back the last time in 1995. I was trying to remember in the day, close to 20 years on the P&Z, until a couple of years ago. The reason I didn't resign, I just didn't renew my commitment, I guess. I was operations manager for a large construction company, and I had a job down in Port Arthur. They had a progress meeting every Thursday afternoon. So when the P&Z meetings moved to Thursday, it was impossible to me to get back. And if I'm going to sign up for something, I'm not going to be an absent member. So I thought it best at the time not to renew my commitment. I am a registered professional engineer. I do have a lot of background in contracts, land development, and different things. Other than that, anybody got any questions, I'll be glad to address them.
Okay.
Do I have to answer these same questions? Your counsel,
Do we need to-
counsel prerogative.
We don't. Okay. The reason I bring this up is he was serving on P&Z for 20 years.
That speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Morgan. Our second applicant for another opening on P&Z is Wesley Gilbreth.
Wesley
He's not here.
texted me and he is not able to attend. He has another
Okay.
conflict tonight.
Well, this is another fellow that we did get a lot of information
Yeah, so
on.
he's been before us, yeah.
We've already asked him all those questions.
Yes, okay. So, to handle P&Z, would we like to entertain these two candidates to fill these two positions? We'll need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the applications of Bill Morgan and Wesley Gilbreth for the openings on the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'll second.
All right, motion is to approve Mr. Gilbreth and Mr. Morgan to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, welcome back. All right, moving to Zoning Board of Adjustments. Mr. Birch? This is another fellow that we've asked these questions to a couple times.
I've been on this board before.
Let's see. Why are you interested in serving on the Zoning Board of Adjustment?
Because I'd like to serve my city. I've been living here 42 years and have not done any civic duty really to speak of for Robinson. Done some things for the school over the years, many things, but I have not done anything in regards to my city. So I called and said, hey, what's available? And, this was available, so I said, all right, I'll try that. Karen taught here at Robinson. She's now retired. She taught over at the primary with Gary Hawkins when he was there in the 90s. Then she worked with me 5 years, and then she went back to teach, and she taught at Vega for 17 years as a reading interventionist. And so I retired from insurance and investments at an insurance agency and investments business, in exchange, SEC, registered Series 6 and 63. And so I retired from that, got tired of it, and decided I wanted to get in the excavation business. So I've got an excavation business and also a window business in retirement, so in property. I'm invested in Robinson for a long time. We raised our kids here, they went to school here, and love my city. I live at 514 Ken Lane. By the way, was I supposed to say that when I got up?
No, you're fine on that one. Yeah.
Robinson, Texas for 42 years.
So ZBA is a, well, what do you call it, an enforcement board. Their decision is final when they make a decision in court. So anything that is decided in ZBA will not come to council. So when you all decide it, you're done.
Yeah.
All right?
And I believe in fairness. I want to be treated fair. I believe heavily in the building of doing others as you'd have them do to you. And that's how I try to live my life. And when I look at these matters, it will be with that in mind. What's fair to the city, what's fair to the people that are coming forward. Anyway.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Birch?
No, sir.
Would someone like to appoint Mr. Birch to the Zoning Board of Adjustment?
I'll make a motion to appoint Charlie Birch to the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion is to appoint Charlie Birch to Zoning Board of Adjustment. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Say hi to my friends here.
All right, and Mr. Chris Short.
He's online.
Yes, he's online. All right.
Oh, he's at a baseball game.
Yeah.
Is that the World Series?
Man, those Stros. All right, Mr. York, you're interested in serving on the Building Standards Commission. We just have a few questions for you. First is, as stated in your application, you currently reside in the city limits Understand the importance of regular attendance at the meetings, which are scheduled one time a year unless called by the chair or city manager on the second Tuesday of the month. And will you be able to complete the open records training by attending a class or through an online course within a reasonable time frame?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Second question is, why are you interested in serving on the Building Standard Commission?
So we moved to Robinson 2 years ago, and believe in being an active participant and not just a sedentary resident. My best friend just joined one of the commissions, and so volunteered with Misty on what else was available and how we can help.
What do you envision for the future of the city of Robinson?
Compared to the town that we came from, Robinson's already heaven on earth for us, so it can only get better from there. And however my wife and myself can be a part of that, we'd be happy to.
All right, do you have any questions or comments for us?
I don't. I'm just looking forward to the active participation and however we can help. So thank you.
Okay. Council, have questions for Mr. York?
I just have one. Mr. York, this is Jim Master George on the council. You know, you're going to be in a position where you're going to be asked to evaluate and criticize personal property of residents. The feedback and aggravation that goes with that can be pretty tough at times. Do you feel that will cause any issues with you concerning the people around you that live in your neighborhood or the people you might run into later on?
So part of my everyday career is on the executive safety board for OSHA, for the federal government. And so I have plenty of experience of getting my butt chewed for something I didn't do, so I'm okay with that.
Having worked under OSHA rules, I understand exactly what you're saying. Thank you for your answer.
No worries.
That sealed you up, Jim. That sealed you up pretty good.
No, that's exactly what I want to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ms. McLean, anything?
No.
Mr. Tyler? Mr. Holland?
I have nothing.
Anyone interested in appointing Mr. York to the Building Standards Commission?
I'll make a motion to appoint Chris York to the Building Standards Commission.
I'll second that motion.
Motion is to appoint Chris York to the Building Standards Commission. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Welcome aboard.
Thanks.
Big night for appointments tonight. All right, item 12, consider impossible action regarding the City of Robinson's position on a proposed variance request by the City of Hewitt to the Southern Trinity Groundwater Conservation District to drill a new well to replace two wells that are no longer operable. I'll let Greg explain this one.
So we received this request from the City of Hewitt from their city manager, Bo Thomas. So the City of Hewitt, like the City of Robinson, has groundwater wells to provide some of their water. I believe they purchased some of their water from the City of Waco also. And two of their wells, through the dropping of the groundwater levels and such, have gone out of operation. So they're wanting to drill a new well so that they can access the water that's already allocated to them. They're not asking for more water, they just want to get to the water they have. The requirements for this process require that they have to notify any other entity, any other water provider that has a well within 13,000 feet radius of their proposed well site. And so we do have two wells. Our well number 7 is 12,980 feet away, so they're 20 feet off on that one. And then our well number 8 is 11,360 feet away, respectively. So they're asking us to basically take a position on this, whether we have no objections to them receiving the variance or whether we have an objection to them receiving the variance. So I think part of the issue here is for about the last 8 years we've been having these conversations about throughout the county about how are we going to address water in the future and the groundwater levels dropping, and there's been a plan that's been discussed about getting some of the bigger users, like the cities, including us at Hewitt, off of some of the groundwater, reducing our groundwater usage, and that everybody would go to the city of Waco. But the city of Waco has recently made everyone aware that they're not going to have the water to provide everybody. I think the drought has opened their eyes. So I think the Hewitts just wanted to put themselves in a position where they can continue water flowing until longer-term decisions are made regionally, which is going to involve all of us. So as far as impacts on us, there's a hydrology report that's attached. I have Greg Hobbs here. Do you want to offer anything, Greg, as far as concerns you may have about this? Or
I don't have any major concerns. Trinity aquifer is lowering, we know that. So the more wells that get drilled into it, the lower it's going to get. But at the same time, it is water that's allocated to them. If the situation was reversed, I would be asking the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, when I first heard it, I called Craig and I said, why do we want to allow them to
Yeah, it's too
drill a
close.
well, you know? And we're trying to come off of well water. We really want to be a provider of water. It's, especially since Waco's in the hurt that they're in, really allows some openings for us. But, you know, on the flip side, like Greg says, when I learned that it was 2 wells that were coming offline and this well's replacing, and it's no more water than what they're already allocated, okay. Because I want to play fair ball, just like Greg
It's
said.
a neighborly thing to do.
Sure, absolutely. But I was defensive at first.
Not our
Well,
water.
and we have had I have had some preliminary conversations with the city manager about, you know, we've had discussions about what are we doing with our plan and upgrades and things, and whether or not we're in a position to potentially become a regional provider. I think with the things that are going on with Waco and Lake Waco, there's more of an opportunity for that. There may even be an opportunity for us to access additional water from the Brazos River, especially if we are going to take a approach of becoming a regional provider, providing more than just our city. So I think there's some possibilities there for the future. The problem is, just like us, you got the demands you have to meet right now, and everything we're talking about doing is probably 3 to 5 years away. I mean, if we went out for bid tomorrow for a water plant, we're probably talking 2 years for an upgrade, and we haven't even got it designed yet. So, you know, so yeah, there's an opportunity for us to possibly provide them water, to provide Lorena more water. There's even a possibility for us to possibly treat some river water that Waco has and provide to some parts of their city. So we'll continue to explore all that, but in the interim, I agree, Greg, I think it's the neighborly thing to do. And we very well could be in the same position 2 years from now.
I have a couple questions. So I know a few years back, it was mentioned that the Trinity Aquifer only had a certain number of years left. I think it was 18. I can't recall when that was said and what they thought the life of the aquifer had left on it. Do we have an updated number? Do we have an idea?
That number really hasn't changed. The goal was to preserve what we had by reducing the groundwater pumping, and we kind of hit a roadblock with that a couple of weeks ago in a meeting we were at. So that group's going to have to reassess and see which direction we move from here and keep working towards preserving aquifer.
Because we were abandoning wells and moving off of wells already. That's what, because we were the highest user of well.
The original plan was for the 7 largest users to cut their use by 50%. And everybody, those 7 users connect to the city of Waco and purchase water from Waco, which we weren't particularly enthusiastic about anyway, and they never wanted to have any discussion about our stuff. So that was the plan, and that was just to lengthen out the amount of time that the water was available in the aquifer. Like Greg said, that whole plan seems to have come off the rails right now, just because of where Waco is right now and where they thought they would be and where they find themselves today. So
So
I think, you know, I mean, discussion I've heard, I think some of their projections, it's not dropping as fast as they thought it was going to.
Right, we're
They
not
have
on the
mentioned
pace they
that.
originally said.
We've even had discussions, I had discussion with City of Waco last week, we've had discussion with the BRA about, taking some of these out-of-service wells and doing experimental injection wells to see if put water back in the aquifer. There's some debate whether or not Trinity will do that because of sands and stuff, so there is a bigger picture, longer term to deal with water.
Yeah, I thought it was, my last I heard was it was non-rechargeable, but then it's a
Well, it's
process.
non-rechargeable from rainfall. The question is, could it be rechargeable? I mean, the Edwards Aquifer is rechargeable, but it takes thousands of years. They have a program down there where they pipe in water during the winter and the spring when the rains are from other areas. They treat it, pump it in the aquifer, and then pull it out in summertime. So that's becoming more, people are getting more creative as water is getting to be a little more
Right.
difficult commodity to access.
I know we're pulling off of Brazos, and Lake Waco's at a pretty low capacity, and I'm being told there's no flow even coming into Waco, Lake Waco at the moment. How are we looking off as far as our water on the Brazos?
What we're really working off of, especially a year like this, is Lorena's contract water through the BRA. They purchase that water, and I can pick up the phone, and they, as long as we haven't taken the volume that they pay for, they have to let it go. So I've been diverting for the last 2 weeks. We pretty well have the main side full, and I'm refilling the other one to start today. So.
And we're probably several years away from the new reservoirs coming online.
Yes, but we've actually had recent discussions with BRA and submitted paperwork for us to possibly purchase contract water from the Brazos. Then we aren't, our current permit, we can only divert at certain times. If it's contract, we can divert whenever we need it.
Okay.
So we're looking at multiple options. A few years ago it was Waco or build a bunch of reservoirs. Things have changed a little bit, and now and it still probably in the long term involves constructing the reservoirs. It's just the reservoirs are really, really expensive. And, you gotta get the land, you gotta build that, so, the long term so yeah, I think the long-term water picture, there's some options available today that were not discussed 2 years ago. And I think what's happening with Lake Waco is part of that. It's making people realize that it's
So
there.
I'm assuming the well that City of Hewitt wants to drill is just gonna be a deeper well?
I don't
Years
know if
It
years
is.
ago, we've got 5 of them in this town, when they were drilling them, back in the 50s and 60s, the aquifer was actually pressurized. They were drilling, the water would just come flowing up. So they never envisioned us getting to the point where we're at now. So when they put the equipment in those wells, they may have only put a 6 or 7 inch casing to maybe 500 feet and then reduced down to 4 inch. So when the water level got to that 4 inch, you can't get a pump in there anymore. So, like I said, we've got 5 of them in this town, same shape.
In the benefit to us, well, there's really no benefit, but there's a slight risk that it could harm our 2 wells in this radius.
Only thing it would do is maybe the annual decline of the aquifer itself could go down a little bit forward, just because you're taking more water out of the ground.
But they already have the right to that water.
Yes. Many years ago, 2000 and 2009, every city in Clinton County had to send in 10 years worth of historical pumping over that 10-year period. And the year that you had pumped the most, that became your allotment from that point forward.
How close is well 7 and well 8 to being for us to drill deep? Are we in the same position?
Oh, not with those two.
Not with those 2. Maybe with one of the other 3?
The only one we got left really like that is that little Greenbrier well off Old Robinson Road. This one is the smallest. The others are all 10-inch casing wells.
We've just about replaced all the pumps by now. Whether they were scheduled or not.
Had one set today.
Yeah.
I'm good on question.
Any further questions?
Make a motion
Shoot.
to approve the proposed variance from the City of Hewitt to drill into the Southern Trinity groundwater.
I'll second. All right, the motion is to approve. Let's see, read that.
I think it's, I think the actual wording was, is to either object or not object.
What is that? They needed it to object or to not object?
Yeah. To object or not object.
Letter from
Okay.
Hewitt.
Yeah, so the bottom of that
Mhm.
says?
Yeah.
Can you,
so-
would you like to amend?
Yes,
that
I can
motion?
amend that. Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to have no objections to the Southern Trinity Groundwater Conservation District granted by a variance of the city of Hewitt
Okay.
to propose a new well location.
Okay. So we have a motion to hereby have no objections. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We didn't amend the first one, so we do have a current motion on board, so we have a motion as it was to approve the variance. So I'm gonna put that in to play, so if you vote, you vote. If you don't, it dies.
Was it
So-
seconded?
It's the original.
The original, did it get a second?
It got a second. Yeah. So we have that motion on the table for approving the variance.
And just to be clear, no vote, it dies, or just a nay would kill it as well.
Right. Yeah. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
Aye, I'm opposed.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd also like
We
them
have
to
one,
not
two,
send
three,
a worded
four.
letter like that again.
Okay.
Do we
I
need
got
a
it.
poll?
We're clear. Did you get that? Sorry for the confusion.
That mean confused.
That was confusing.
I mean, heck, it's gonna be fun every now and again.
Yeah.
All right, 14, no, 13, consider possible action approving a First Amendment to the current emergency medical services agreement, moving to a tiered response system, allowing for the use of BLS units for 9/11 responses and adding an additional tier in call priorities. You got this, Chris?
Yes, I think. I'm gonna confuse all of you now, so. So under our current, ambulance contract with AMR, which is up for renewal next year, they are facing the same challenge that, emergency medical services are pretty much throughout the country, but especially here in Texas, and that's getting adequate number of paramedics. It's becoming difficult to have enough paramedics to put all paramedics on all the ambulances, so they have been looking at options, and they have implemented some of this in their other cities. And one of the things that's made it a challenge is a few years ago, the state of Texas basically changed the requirements for paramedics to mirror those of a registered nurse. And so what happens is everybody who's graduating wants to be registered nurses and not paramedics. So it's getting harder to do that. So the current system we have with AMR is a non-subsidized. We're not paying any money into this. They're providing the service, and all of their revenue comes from billing either through Medicare or insurance and everything. So they're wanting to try to make sure and keep the response up. So they've had in place a system where when a call comes in, it goes to a emergency medical dispatch who does a quick assessment. They just determine if it needs a advanced life support or a basic life support ambulance. Basic life support is usually going to be hospital transfers and things like that. The problem they're running into is they're having a hard time keeping enough advanced life support ambulances staffed on the street to make every call, and it's increasing call times. So what they're wanting to do is go to this tiered system where they will now have, every ambulance that's out there will be equipped for advanced life support. But some of them will only be staffed for basic life support, which means they have EMTs on them. And so they'll still send the paramedic staffed ambulances on those calls that need a paramedic when they have that. One of the things they're going to do is create what's called a quick response vehicle, where they'll actually have several SUVs out there with a paramedic in that SUV. And what will happen is, if they have a call that they need advanced life support and they don't have one available, they'll send a basic life ambulance, and that quick response vehicle will meet it at the scene, and we'll have the paramedic on the scene. So that's part of the tiered thing. The other thing they want to do, they're getting a lot of calls that they're sending ambulances on that end up not needing an ambulance. They refuse to transport. A lot of them are people that need some level of medical care, but they don't have the resources, they don't know where to get it. So they're implementing, they want to implement here a nurse navigation program. And so what will happen is, when a call comes in, it'll go to be triaged just like it is now. If, the first thing they're going to try to do is this, an emergency life or death situation? If yes, we're going to send the ambulance. If that process tells them no, it's not, let's step it down. Is it a basic life support, or is it something else? Then they will transfer that call to a nurse navigator, and the nurse navigators will actually take them through, kind of like teledoc almost. They'll assess their situation. If it is something that a doctor could handle remotely, they will actually connect them to like a teledoc service. If it's something they need help, they'll actually they'll get their insurance information, all that. They'll schedule them appointments. They'll get them to an urgent care, get them to whatever they need to, where they don't need an ambulance to pick them up. So that's the program they're wanting to implement. They have been reaching out to the various departments to start that process of doing that. I believe most of the other cities have already approved this, but it's just a way of trying to continue to meet the needs of the community while still keeping this as an unsubsidized service. And like I said, AMR has done this, the nurse navigation system, in several cities around. And the information we received at our last board meeting was that it's been pretty positive. That they've already reached out, made contact with all the different potential providers here in McLean County, as far as urgent care for people who may not have insurance, may not have the financial wherewithal, whether it's some kind of subsidized care or something like that. So that's the tiered system they want to go to. But the ultimate goal is to try to keep the emergency responses, keep the ambulances and the paramedics that are needed for emergencies going to emergencies. If there's any question at all, when it goes in the nurse navigation, they will send it back, and they'll send it to nurse. But they have found about 25% of the calls can be handled by nurse navigation. So that's what they're asking for, is for each of us to approve this amendment.
I'd add to that this was needed years ago, that this was needed before the paramedic shortage, and I think 25% is so conservative. It's probably closer to 50%. EMS as primary care is huge. People come get me, take me to the hospital for what most people who are insured and have a primary care physician would just go to a doctor and treat.
And I think I would agree with 50%. I think they find that some people won't let them take them through the nurse navigation. They want an ambulance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if they demand it, they're going to send it. So
a study was done by the City of Chicago Fire Department, and probably 10 years ago, and they found that this was so rampant in EMS. And everybody knows it. If you work in it, you feel it, you see it. But they did a study in it, and it's huge. You're actually starting to see medical companies come on board now that are doing home house calls. Doctors' offices come to you now. It's in the major metropolitan areas. That's because this is needed, the service is needed. And putting, sick patients in a hospital that are not life-threatening, especially in an ER, just clogs up, ties up resources that need to go to true emergent personnel, people who are really hurt, injured, or sick. And so this is well needed, overdue.
further? Mr. Master George?
No, I'm good.
Questions, comments? Mr. Rogers?
I move to approve the First Amendment to the current emergency medical service agreement, moving to a tiered response system, allowing for the use of BLS units or, I'm believing that's supposed to say, or 911 responses, adding an additional tier in call priorities. If I
I'll
read
s-
that correctly.
It should be 4 911 responses.
4 911? Yeah.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
All right. Motion is to approve the First Amendment to the current emergency medical services agreement. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 14, consider approval of Resolution 2022-010-R, authorizing the filing of an application for financial assistance not to exceed $750,000 from Texas Water Development Board Flood Infrastructure Funds to purchase and remove homes located in the floodplain and floodway of Flat Creek, and to designate the city manager as the City of Robinson's authorized representative for purposes of furnishing information and executing application documents, as well as authorizing Specialized Public Finance, Inc., Walker Partners, and Norton Rose Fulbright U.S. LLC to aid and assist in preparation and submission of such application. Mr. Lemon.
So you may recall, I think most of you were on the council. A couple years ago, we came to you to see if you wanted us to submit preliminary applications for a couple of the areas in the city that we had specific flood issues that were identified by the Flat Creek study that was conducted in the 2015 to 2018 range. And council authorized us to go ahead and submit those. So we did send those in. I guess about 6 months ago, we were notified we were not selected for that round, but that we were put on the waiting list. And we actually had two different projects we were looking at. There was this one, which is to purchase the homes that are located. There's 4 homes at the bottom of McClendon, where McClendon intersects with Emberwood. They're actually in the partially or all in the floodway. All are definitely in the floodplain, and they flood regularly. And they flood to the point they've had enough claims that they cannot get flood insurance anymore. So those are down there. So the other one was to provide some funding to raise homes on Woodcock, but that was a pretty sizable grant. And when the stuff came back, we felt like the best opportunity we had was to go forward with this project. So we indicated we were still interested in this, and we submitted this to them. It was one of those where it came on like a Tuesday, and we had to let them know by Friday, so we sent in and said, we were interested. They then reached out to us about a week and a half ago and said, you're up, you're on the list, if you want to submit an application, we have to have a preliminary phone call where we have to talk to you, and then you can submit an application. So we did that, I guess it was last Monday afternoon, and they said, here's all the forms you got to fill out, here's everything you got to do, and we got to have them by November 15th. So one of the things we have to have is a resolution for the council to authorize us to submit the application. So that's what you have before you. Originally, we had approximated this project at about $600,000, and property values have gone up since 2020, a little bit anyway. And so we did reach out, and we got some updated pricing and things, and so I put this at $750,000. The way this is structured, 10% of it would be a grant. Let me back up a little bit. We did ask them, can we apply for more than the original $6,000 because prices have gone up? They said yes, but whether or not you get it will depend on whether or not money is available. So we may be able to get more than 600, or we may only get 600. We cannot condemn these homes. We cannot force these people to sell them to us. But we can make a fair offer based on what we believe is the current market value of those properties, and if they want to take advantage, they can do that. So 10% of this is a full grant. The other 90% will be funded by 0% interest loans through the Texas Water Development Board. So We have a bunch of paperwork to do in the next 2 weeks. I figured before I spent a whole lot of time doing that, I'd see if you all still want to submit this. We will have to pay back the loans, but they will be at 0% interest.
What,
I have to talk to First Southwest about that. I mean, we could go 20 years. I think that's, for this amount of money, it's kind of long to go that many years. I think we could easily do 10 years. So we'd be looking somewhere in the neighborhood of, depending on how much, anywhere from about 55 to 65,000 a year. 68,000 a year to pay. Again, it is 0%, so. And that's assuming all 4 property owners want to sell their home. Or willing to take advantage. We would not, that would be part of the process. If we're notified that we will get it, then we would have to actually have each home appraised, contact the owner, make an offer. If they decline the offer, then we can move on.
Do we foresee, I think there's one that potentially would decline?
I mean, we cannot condemn, or it has to be strictly, that's one of the conditions of the program, is it has to be voluntary.
In this process, so if we do, would we wait to see if we got all 4 on board and committed before we bought anything? The reason I say that is it would stink to do 3 and then 1 holdout, and how do we work that?
I think we buy what we can get.
Buy what we can
I think you get what you can get. This is basically the only way out.
Right. For
If
them.
you get flood insurance, it's hard to sell these houses. I
You
mean,
won't
if
be.
you can.
No.
I mean, it's gonna be a cash sale to somebody that, and then the disclosure of what, so these are homes that were not in the floodplain, and then FEMA changes the floodplain, and now they're in the floodplain.
Yeah,
Well, they know they're in the floodplain. whether
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
have changed
Yeah.
or not.
they
It's
know.
bad.
Sure.
One of them stays in his attic whenever it
Yeah.
floods. It's bad.
I mean, this
But
is
he's-
something. you
He's the
know?
one that's probably gonna hold out.
and technically FEMA didn't change the floodplain, they just
Well,
better identified the floodplain.
They better
Yeah.
identified it.
It's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
The technology they used years ago to figure out the floodplain was sort of, and now they actually do aerial photography. And this flood survey was actually on the ground. They actually went out and surveyed as part of the study. And what they found is the houses weren't just in the floodplain, they were in the floodway, so. So, yeah, I hear that people will say, well, you know, I wasn't in the floodplain, then FEMA put me in the floodplain. Well, they don't decide where the floodplain is, they just try to identify where the floodplain. Floodplain is gonna be where the floodplain is gonna go, so it's there. But yeah, they built really before any of that was regulated. So, but under the National Flood Insurance Program, which we do participate in, you kind of only get so many chances to get payment, then they won't cover you anymore.
So if we do this, we commit to doing all 4, but what happens if holdout, that money just goes to the bank until later, maybe they decide?
No, I think I think we set a deadline, and if they don't, we pay it back, we reduce the payments. I think there's probably a pretty good chance we could have it figured out before we even get the funding, and just give us the funding, give us money.
Okay.
And again, this is still subject to approval. We could do all this and still not get approved. We spent a whole lot of time 2 years ago. I know I should bring this up, cause flashback. We're working on a grant that we were told there's a lot of money and very few people want it. We spent a whole lot of time putting it together, and we were not one of the ones that got it. And then one of the ones that got it a year later said, "Nah, we don't want it." We went back to the state and nobody got it. So, so it's just. It's the rolling the dice on grants, especially through the state. But, so it's there if we want to proceed, and it's up to you if we do that.
Sounds like a great opportunity.
Any questions?
These people can't apply for flood insurance at any stage at all anymore, correct?
Correct.
Now, does the city have any liability for repair and reclamation under that type of condition?
No, I mean, the purpose of this grant would be to buy them, demolish them, and turn that back to green space and
Okay.
place for the water to flow through,
So whatever conditions may be, it's at their own risk then?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, we have no obligate, it's just one of those, they're there, there's potential hazard, I mean, you never know the need for future emergency response, people are flooded, they're trapped, and we're putting resources and things into a known problem, that if, this is an opportunity to mitigate that problem and try to reduce it, so.
Okay.
Anything else? Any further questions? Any action?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-0010-R with the authorization for the filing and application for financial assistance not to exceed $750K for the Texas Water Development Board Flood Infrastructure Funds to purchase and remove homes located in the floodplain and floodway of Flat Creek.
One second. Our motion is to approve resolution 2022-010-R. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 15, Mayor, council member updates and requests for items to be placed on future agendas. Mr. Master George, have anything?
Not at this time, no.
Ms. McLean? Mr. Stiles? Mr. Collins? Mr. Ross?
I have none.
At that time, we will move to adjourn at 6:56.